صباح الخير. هذه هي محاضرة القانون العام باللغة الإنجليزية، المحاضرة الثانية بتاريخ 23 آذار 2020 إلى ماجستير القانون العام في كلية الحقوق بجامعة دمشق. إذن نقرر القانون العام باللغة الإنجليزية. Right. Last week we have argued what is public law and what is a private law, the distinction between both public law and private law. Why do we study public law? The branches of public law, we started with constitutional law, then administrative law. We gave an idea about these two branches. Constitutional law as the supreme law of the state. It is constitution, the supreme law of the state. And the administrative law, which is concerned with public organizations like public bodies and public establishments. Today we argue the third branch of public law, and then the fourth branch and the fifth branch. The fourth branch of public law is financial law, the third branch. Then the fourth branch, criminal law, and five, public international law. We start with financial law. What is financial law? Financial law is a set of rules concerned with revenues, expenditure, taxes, and the organization of the public budget. A set of rules concerned with revenues, expenditure, taxes, and the organization of public budget. We know the state has revenues and expenditure, and this revenues and expenditure are in the yearly plan of the state, the financial plan of the state. This financial plan of the state usually for 1 year. And there are the taxes are studied in financial law. Usually there is a yearly financial plan called the budget for the state. This bill passes through Parliament, or what we call the People's Council in Syria, and then will be issued by the executive power as the law of the public budget for a year. There is a financial policy of the state. This financial policy, of course, is significant. And the financial laws of the state should be consistent usually with the financial policy of the law. Also, the financial policy is within the framework of the financial laws of the state. In revenues, there is taxes and tariffs. How the revenues of the state come. عائدات الدولة. From taxes, from tariffs. These are the main sources of the public budget. Then there is the expenditure. The expenditure is two kinds. Expenditure for consumption and expenditure for investment. Both are necessary to for the development of the society. The state expenditure takes into account all sectors of the state. That means the financial yearly plan of the state, the budget, take into its consideration all the sectors of the state, whether they are educational, health sectors, industrial sectors, agricultural sectors, commercial sectors, because all of them need expenditure. Even the investment should be in all the sectors, or many of them at least. This is about the financial law. Financial law of the state. The financial law can be divided into more than one law. A basic financial law, law for taxes, and perhaps other financial laws. The fourth branch of public law is criminal law. Criminal law is divided into two laws, two main laws: punishment law and law of criminal procedures. قانون العقوبات وقانون وصول المحاكمات الجزائية. Law of punishment determines what are the crimes and what are their punishments. The conditions of criminal liability. The conditions of criminal liability. And contains mitigating and aggravating circumstances. Again, what is criminal law? Criminal law in general is a set of rules that determine what are the crimes and their punishments, the rules of criminal liability, and the procedures for a criminal litigation. But if we define punishment law, then we exclude the criminal procedures from the definition. Criminal punishment law, or law of punishments, a set of rules define what are the crimes and what are their punishments. what are the crimes and what are their punishments and the rules of criminal liability. Here we can read in any criminal law the crimes or the offenses. A crime usually is for felonies. The word offense is for misdemeanor and contravention, but they are used by many people, many writers interchangeably. Crimes are divided in three divisions, or there is a tribal division for crimes: contravention, misdemeanor, and felony. What is a contravention? A contravention is a minor crime. It is punishment by law not more than 10 days imprisonment. Misdemeanor is also a minor crime. Its punishment by law ranges usually between 10 days until 3 years. A felony is a crime or dangerous crime. Its punishment ranges between 3 years imprisonment and permanent imprisonment or capital punishment. So the punishment in a felony, the minimum is 3 years, and these 3 years usually either arrest or imprisonment with hard work. That's the minimum. The maximum could reach capital punishment. That means the person may be hanged. Any crime contains ministry and actus reus. What is ministry? Ministry is the intent in a crime, either malice aforethought or immediate intention, sometimes by negligence. Could be negligence. The actus reus is the action which is done in a crime. It's called actus reus. The motive of a crime is the reason standing behind committing a crime. What is liability? Liability means responsibility. If a person not liable, that means he is not responsible. Criminal liability, criminal responsibility. So we did define criminal law, punishment law, and afterwards we will define law of procedures. there must be a causation between the actus reus, what has been done, and the tort, that there is usually what we call it the causation reason, the causation السببية, that the action led to the result, to the crime. If a certain action did not lead to the crime, it means the person not responsible about that crime. But his action led to the crime. The actus reus led to the crime. The principle in criminal law is that no punishment and no crime without a legal text. No crime, no punishment without a legal text. لا جريمة ولا عقوبة إلا بقانون. What does this mean? The written law is the only source for criminal law or punishment law. Criminal law, in particular law of punishments, define what are the crimes and what are their punishments. Sometimes the punishment could be a fine, just paying a fine, no imprisonment, or imprisonment with a fine. In every place, or in every constitution, in every criminal law, usually the rule is no crime and no punishment without a legal text. This means the custom could not be considered a source for criminal law. It is not like the civil law. And the second important thing which we said 2 minutes ago, must be a relationship between the criminal act and the tort. There must be a relationship between the criminal act and the tort. In criminal laws, there is another principle: no ex post facto laws. In criminal matters, no ex post facto laws. لا رجعي في القوانين الجزائية. يعني لا تجرم أفعال قبل صدورها. The division of crimes, we say that most of the countries consider this tribal division: contravention, misdemeanor, and felony. There are some vocabularies also, like provocation. What do you mean by provocation? That a person is provocated, maybe from inside himself. Usually provocation comes from inside the person. If somebody has done something against another, and this provoked him. So this is can be considered in the rules of punishment if he knows that he will provoke him. He becomes responsible. The abitur is the provocation from outside, that means by an abitur, المحرض. Incitement, تحريض. It's difficult sometimes to make a distinction between provocation and incitement. الإثارة والتحريض. الإثارة تكون من داخل الشخص، والتحريض شخص خارجي يحرض شخص آخر يقوم بالتحريض. What do we mean by capacity? Capacity or legal capacity. Capacity الأهلية القانوني. Capacity الأهلية القانوني. When there is a full capacity, that means full perception, responsibility or criminal liability is linked with perception. If there is full discretion, then there is full capacity. No discretion at all, that means no capacity in the person. Like a child below 7 years of age or infant man. Capacity can be inadequate. Inadequate capacity usually in people who are in the age below 18, if they did not reach the age of majority, the age of capacity. A person who is 15 or 16 years old or 17, he has inadequate capacity. The rules of criminal liability is different for him. A person also who is mad has partial discretion, partial madness. He is in a case of inadequate capacity. Then their liability will be reduced. Incapacity applies to those who are children prior to the age of 7 years. Also for people who have complete madness, complete insanity. They do not know any discretion. That means they are not liable in a criminal law. We can say other matters in criminal laws, especially law of punishments, the case of self-defense or and defense for property. In the case of self-defense, the person defends himself and has no other way to defend himself, then he is not punished. He is irresponsible, not innocent. He committed the crime, but he is irresponsible. Irresponsibility is different from innocence. Innocence, that means the person has not committed the crime at all. No evidence that he committed the crime. But irresponsibility, a person committed a crime, but by law he is irresponsible because he is in the case of self-defense, or he is a mad person, or a child below the age of 7. Mitigating and aggravating circumstances. Mitigating circumstances will be if there are reasons in the case make the judge reduce the sentence. Like a poor man, if he had stolen because of his poorness. Aggravating circumstances, that there are reasons make the judge increase the punishment that in the law, because the reasons which made him to commit the crime is not really accepted, or not like that. The reasons are calling for more punishment than in the legal text. Like a man did steal to collect much wealth. He does not need to steal, but he did steal a child, or did steal a disabled person. The person who was stolen is disabled. That makes the judge to increase the punishment because he thinks this person is dangerous. The criminal is dangerous. What about amnesty and grace in criminal law? Amnesty means that there is a law by the legislature made crimes in a certain time unpunishable for one reason or another. So the crime happened, but the people not responsible because there is amnesty and will not be registered in their record. They still, of course, responsible from the civil point of view in the civil law, but not in the criminal. Grace is to stop the implementation of the punishment after the conviction, and will be recorded, will be registered in the records of the election. In grace, the punishment can be substituted to a lesser punishment. Crimes are many. Some crimes are against the persons, and some crimes are against property. we count some of the crimes like homicide crimes, which include murder, voluntary manslaughter, and involuntary manslaughter. Genocide, a dangerous crime. This can be explained in the public international law. Kidnapping, taking a person from one place to another for a certain reason, like to oblige him to pay money for those who kidnapped him. Grievous bodily harm, assault, harassments, offenses of dishonesty, like fraud. Blackmail, burglary. These are offenses. There are other offenses like incitement. We mentioned it earlier. And offenses by omissions, not to do what a person obliged to do by law. This is about criminal law, in particular the law of punishments. What about the law of penal procedures? The law of penal procedures sets the rules for litigation in criminal matters and the ways of appeal and contest in criminal sentences. The lapse of time is different between punishment law or law of punishments and the law of criminal procedures. Because in the law of criminal procedures, the crime not fixed, not assured whether the person committed the crime or not. Therefore, the prescription or lapse of time here is 1 year in contravention, 3 years in misdemeanor, and 10 years in felonies. If there is no pursuant of the criminal within this period, then the state loses the right to make any prosecution against him. While in capital punishment and permanent imprisonment with hard work or permanent arrest, the lapse of time will be 25 years. In other sentences will be less than that, about double of time of the sentence as a maximum. We can read also in the law of criminal procedures bail, conditional bail and unconditional bail, that the law allows judges to make a bail unconditional or conditional. If it is conditional, the criminal here pays some money. If he was convicted, he will lose this money. The defendant, we can say, the criminal, because there is usually no sentence yet. He's still in the period of accusation. He is still the defendant. Public international law. What remains from the branches of public law, public international law. Public international law is a set of rules or norms for the relationships between two international persons, between two states or two international persons. It is a set of norms embodied in international treaties, international declarations, and international customs. They are the rules which are embodied in international treaties, international declarations, and international customs. It aims at organizing the relations between states and international organizations. In all times of peace and war. So it's called the external public law, because this law is with another state or another international organization. It is rules between the state and international organization, or between one state and another. This is why they call it external public law. The other branches of public law are internal public law, and this is external public law. It deals with matters like diplomatic relations and diplomatic rights, with consular relations also, the immunity of ambassadors in this case, or the diplomatic mission, the immunity and privileges of the diplomatic mission. Deals also with the rules of establishing states and international organizations, the rules of international treaties and international agreements, for the duties and rights of the conflicting parties and the rights of civilians in the war. These rules are found in the humanitarian international law. 5. It deals with the freedom of using the right in the high seas, using the high seas, international rivers and international waters. Also, the limits on using airspace, the limits and use of territorial waters. It includes international cooperation between states and the international security. Includes the Charter of the United Nations as the main international organization, and it is organs. The sources of international law are international treaties and international conventions, international customs, rules of justice, jurisprudence. These are 4 sources. The problem with the public international law, to some writers of law, they see that public international law loses the force of application because it is left in many instances to the states to apply it. And many states do not apply some of its rules or many of its rules. A strong state may make hegemony on a weak state, or a state not in the same force. And they consider it, the writers of law, or some of them at least, it is different from the other laws because it cannot be applied on all situations. Examples of international organizations. From the international organizations, the United Nations, the United Nations. This is the biggest international organization in the world. There are other international organizations, and some international organizations work on a regional level, like the Arab League. This is for the Arab countries. The European Union in Europe. There are other branches of public law, but usually they are attached to one of these branches, the 5 branches that we did discuss them, like the law of environment or environment law. This is attached to the administrative law, but some of the new branches try to take their own position as an independent branch. Anyway, these are the main branches of public law. If you have any question, you can ask me when you meet in lectures. For next time, we start with the freedom of expression, and this is what we see in the previous lecture, and this lecture will be part of the course and make students do some homework in another time of the year. about these two seminars or these two lectures. Next time we will start with the freedom of expression that will be on Monday 30 March 2012 this year. Until we meet in another lecture, I hope a very good time for you. أتمنى لكم أفضل الأوقات حتى نلتقي في المحاضرة المقبلة.